Hey, Sharon, if you can see this, message me. But actually, you can't because this is on my phone because for some reason my browser isn't updated. So I guess Melissa's already watching. I guess we're going to have to just go ahead and we've got about 3 more minutes. Linda Morrison's watching. Hey, Linda. Hope you're doing good. I can't use my computer today for some reason. The browser, it says it's waiting for a live video and that my browser isn't updated, so I'm sort of stuck with this. You can see me good. Can you hear me? Okay. This is Shadowhunters Shadow Hour for August 7th, 2020. I'm coming to you from my basement. I'm doing this show separately, and the reason we're doing it like this tonight is because normally I'll have a guest or try to have somebody that I could go ahead and have on the screen with me, and that's through Zoom. But tonight it's happening to the fact that I was going to use Facebook Live, which I'm using on my phone, but what's happening is that I'm going to have to pay real close attention to what's going on because there's people corresponding already. Linda, Michelle. Hey, Michelle. Let's start off with this. That here we are, the first week of August 2020, and we still don't have full reign on investigations or paracons. So what I'm going to do is a little news right off the bat. Ursula Bielski went ahead and announced that she's going to do a paracon on October 15th in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. And this is going to be really something because a lot of people are going to want to go to this. She invited shadow hunters to join and have a table and speak. So Nicholas and me and whoever else are going to go ahead and talk about YouTube because Nicholas now is like almost a scholar in YouTube. So we'll leave it at that, and that's news there. So we'll keep you posted on that. Next up is some of the investigations this weekend that are going on Facebook Live. My other group, Ghost Research Society, Dale Kazmarik's group, and Ghost Head Soup with Dean Thompson, and Crawford County Ghost Chasers with Jason Snyder. Those guys were all out in Pennsylvania at a combination of Gettysburg battlefields, Jenny Wade House, a lot of places downtown Gettysburg. And what I'd like to tell you guys all is the fact that I've been there twice. I was there when I was a kid, and then I was there 3 or 4 years ago when we went there as a group, and it's a great experience. It's a great experience if you're an American, and it gives you an idea of what brought this country all together in the battle between the Unions and the Confederates. To me, it's more or less the fact that these were all our boys, whether you're the North or the South, and they all died for their reasons. And it brought this country together to be what it is today, so, or what it was shortly before this. The situation that they're at right now, they have gone If you know anything about Gettysburg, there's certain areas of the battlefield that are really, really something to see. One of the areas is the Devil's Den, and across the street and up this mountain ridge is a place called Little Round Top. And the strategic parts of this whole entire battle for 3 days on the 4th of July weekend were all based on who took the high ground. And that's usually who ended up winning the battles. An awfully lot of people died, a tremendous amount of people, a tremendous amount of horses. I want to say there were like 50 some thousand Confederates and Union soldiers that died, and it's been brought to the point that, you know, they say, well, a lot of them were just killed outright, and other ones that had lost or had been wounded or in the leg or the arm ended up having to have their arms amputated because the size of the rounds were like 50 caliber bullets. So when they hit you, they pretty much destroyed your bone tissue and your muscles. And if you didn't bleed out, you'd end up losing your arm at some hospital that was in somebody's house that was set up by the doctors on both sides. The battle actually went into the town of Gettysburg. One of the stories that has to do with the battle is there was a woman by the name of Jenny Wade whose husband was in the battle, or her boyfriend was in the battle, and she had sent him a note via another friend, and he was to pass the note on to her boyfriend, and she had Union troops in her house and in her basement, and every day she would go out and feed them bread that she baked in her kitchen. Well, on this particular morning, a shot was fired as she was cooking the bread, and it went right through a solid wooden door that was probably 4 inches, put a hole in the door very, very large, and struck her right through the heart and killed her where she stood. And she was the only civilian victim of that battle, and they brought her downstairs so nothing else would happen, into the basement, and paid their respects to her, and that's where she stayed until the battle was over. Both groups of people, all three groups of people that are at this battlefield today and all these other sites that are around Gettysburg are very, very good groups. And they do a lot of research, and they do a lot of filming, and they do a lot of EVPs. And right now, I bet they've got a lot of ticks, because the field where I did all my last work was in the triangular field, and it was halfway down, and I was trying to tell Jason Snyder on my phone that he was 10 feet away from where I did most of my work the night that we were there in the triangular field. Up above us at the ridge where the troops were charging to try to take the high ground, they were all slaughtered in that field. And I was halfway down, and I had a granite like ridge or floor with all these granite rocks, and you could just look at them and you could see the devastation that was done even on the rocks that were there. It was crazy. And I have the utmost respect for everyone that died there, and I feel very strongly in the fact that there's a lot of things that are being said today about, we're going to get into the statues and monuments and things like that, and some things that are going on today in Congress, and it's the wrong move. They should never do anything like this, because that's destroying history. That's our history. That's my history. That's where I come from. And then with that, I'm going to just cut that part out, because that's not as important as coming up with more information for you people as far as what these guys are doing. Well, they have Dale Kazmarek, who's pretty much our leader for Ghost Research Society, and he could be a guide out there. He knows more than a lot of the guides do that take people around the National Park of Gettysburg and give the people facts. And I enjoyed myself immensely because Dale was just nonstop, fact after fact after fact. One of them was there were over 10,000 horses killed there in 3 days. And where do you put 10,000 dead horses? Just an idea. Well, these guys they're all on Facebook Live. Jason Snyder's on Crawford County Ghost Chasers. You can look him up, you can go to my page and you can go ahead and see my alerts. You've got him, you've got Dale Kazmarek, does most of the Facebook Lives for GRS. He'll be live again tonight, and they'll all be live late tonight too if you want to see some interesting places in Gettysburg, like Jenny Wade's house. That'll be live tonight, I imagine around midnight. If you want to get alerts, go to his page and like it, and you'll be able to go ahead and see this stuff later on tonight. The other one, Ghost Head Soup, Dean Thompson, they're out of Alden, Illinois, out west of where I live on 173. They got a great group of people there too. I've worked with them on different locations across into the east in Pennsylvania. I've worked with them in Ohio and Virginia and West Virginia, Indiana, all over the place. So they're great people too. So these are all people that, if you're into this and you're interested in doing this as part of your existence, this is what I wanted to do. And I've been wanting to do it since I've been a little kid. And now finally, I've been given that great opportunity around 5 years ago to join Dale's group. And it's the oldest group in the area for sure. It's over 40 years old. And everything's done traditionally the way it should. And when you go out and do an investigation, you come back and you do a report. And then the report's submitted with your evidence that you collected, whether it's EVPs, photographs, movies, anything that you think is evidence, you can submit it, and then Dale comprises it, puts it all together, and turns it into, hi Sharon, it turns it into the whole investigation. And if you went to Ghost Research Society on the web, you can go to that page and you can get an idea what I'm talking about, because if you were getting ready to do an investigation any place in this land, the chances are that Dale and GRS have been there, and you could go ahead and look and see what they did, the equipment they used to come up with some of their responses and the end results. I would love to go ahead and help shadow hunters become part of this great tradition as far as this bookkeeping is concerned. A lot of people don't like to do it because it takes a lot of time. But we're doing basically what's considered to be research because we constantly do experiments. So that's where that is. And I just wanted to talk about that. Some of the news that's going on right now in the paranormal community, some of the stuff, I don't know if you people are even familiar with Paranormal Warehouse, but if you went and liked Paranormal Warehouse, you could go ahead and become part of their many various live presentations. Dark Zone is another one besides Paranormal Warehouse, and I believe they work through Paranormal Warehouse. But on August 28th through the 31st, there's going to be a 4-day live stream of the Lizzie Borden house. Now that's where they set up the cameras and they run them all day and all night. So if you wanted to just check in and see what's up with that and see what the comments are as far as what's going on at the location and things like that, because it's a good way to go ahead and get a grasp on everything that's going on in the community. Paranormal Warehouse also offers various live events. They do tarot readings like Sharon does here for Shadow Hunters. They do live streams at various haunted locations, and they do live spirit box sessions. Some of the things that you can see on there, are really neat, and they cover almost every night of the week. So when when we're on Monday nights with Psychics United, and that's mostly psychics and mediums, and that's pretty much run by Scotty and Terry Rourke, and they're out of Madison, and Scotty and Terry run Psychics United, and there's psychics from all across the United States that are members to it. And locally, Sharon Ritz, that's with me and with Shadow Hunters, she leads the group in Antioch. So if you have anybody around that's interested, we have a couple more. Michelle is usually there or on the meetings, and so is Nida. And it's something, if you're interested in, stop by, see what's going on. It's on Monday nights. If you go to Psychics United page on Facebook, you get a little more information on what's going on with that, and you could join the meetings. You could, send a message to Scotty and tell him what your interests are, and if you'd like to go ahead and do something with us, and check it out if you have an interest, if you've been doing things. We see a lot of posts that come up that, I became aware of things since I was 12 years old, and now I'm 26. And it's like, it depends if you want to use your skills. So it's some way to check it out and see what's going on and give you the opportunity to do something that's very rewarding because you're helping other people. And that's the most important part about this. Something that was brought up on one of the shows that was on Paranormal Warehouse last night dealt with Paranormal Unity round table with about 8 guys, and it was all done on Zoom, and they were all discussing groups and egos, and I'm going to be big time, and I'm going to be somebody, and in the process people unintentionally step on other people's feet, or people for attention do things they shouldn't be doing, and they're corrected and sort of blackballed. And we have to get beyond that, and we got to say, look, I know how I behave myself, and I've been honest about everything I've done in this. There's no way not to be, because you're not dealing with something that's the spirits are not aware of. If you have any idea about spirit guides or your help from beyond, they don't really, hey Nick, they don't really care one way or the other about you, but they care about your credibility. They care about your chances to go ahead and make it. So when I said tarot card readings, I always think of Sharon. And if I think about Psychics United, I think about our good friend Scotty Rourke. The other night, he had Lisa Crick on, which is a longtime paranormal investigator that's crossed over and done little roles in a few haunted movies. And she's a great lady, and I wish the heck I met her in person, but she's one of the ones that I haven't. The live spirit box sessions, for those people that are interested in a Spirit Box 7, SB7 piece of equipment, where you go ahead and you pick it up and it's got a radio scanner on it, so it goes AM, FM, and you go fast and slow, forward and backwards, louder and softer. You know, it's really a very unique piece of equipment. A couple weeks down the road, I hope to have a acquaintance of mine who helped me out with the last Paracon we had on his thoughts on the spirit box and the Estes method. And the Estes method compared to the, how could you say, the regular voice recorder or anything like that, with the spirit box, what happens is the scan, excuse me just one second. It scans, and if you would start a session, normally with the spirit box, you would just have to ask the spirit box questions, and you could hear the going on, and you would wait for a word, to hear a word that was unusual, but it had to be a total word. And sometimes they answered questions, sometimes they didn't. They use it as a way of communicating. With the Estes method, it's changed around a little bit so that you would wear soundproof headphones hooked up to the spirit box, and off that you could do the voice recordings or the recordings of what you're doing with the spirit box, and go back and know the questions and see where the answers are. You're the conduit. So there's some people that are good with it, and there's other people that aren't too good with it. You have to have an interest in it. You have to believe to make it work. Now, an important part that was told to me by the gentleman I plan on having on in a couple weeks was that that spirit box is yours. It's mine. I've shared it with some people on the last 2 investigations that we've done. Excuse me. It's not a thing to do too much of, because there's people on the other side that sort of are watching and helping you out as far as getting people to respond and also keeping the bad forces away. So I was told, work on your spirit guides and ask your spirit guides to help you out with the SB7. And he gave me one of his spirit guides and told my machine that this particular guide would be watching over my machine and preventing anything evil from happening, which I thought was super cool, and it should remain that way. If I have to buy another one, I will, just so I could have it for the group. But if you have one, it's like a telephone, it's yours, and you should handle it that way. I don't do anything in my house. I do nothing in my house, because this is my abode. And if I come home and I have any feelings at all, I am not welcoming anything here. I'm telling them they have to go before they even get near where I'm at right now. They're unwelcome. They haven't been asked to come, and they have to leave now. This is the way I am with it, and this is the same way I should be with my spirit box. one of the shows on Paranormal Warehouse is a Spirit Box show, a live one that's done on, I want to say Sunday or Monday nights, and the guy's name is Greg, and he's from the East Coast, and he does a admirable job, but he has all his equipment set up, and he's got a Spirit Box. I don't know if this is just a house that he uses for that or what, but he's there, and it's like all this stuff is happening, and it's like he's like a beacon, or how can you say, one of those bug killers, and the light's on, and here come the bugs, and instead of the bugs, here comes the spirits. So Tony's on here. That's pretty cool, Tony. Hey, Tony. And Linda says, I agree, keep it as a personal device. And, that's the way it should be. Let me look at a little more here. I saw a very interesting thing this afternoon on the Paranormal News Network or channel. It's a Facebook page, and it had to deal with the Stanley Hotel. And I've been to the Stanley quite a few times. I've enjoyed myself immensely. My daughter's been my cameraman on a couple of times that I was there. A great place, has a wild feeling. The floors all have different vibrations. There's tons of stories about the place. There's ways that I was feeling. I took pictures of the person that was acting as my guide, and she had hair that was fairly long, and it was laying down, and she got into this one particular area up on the 3rd floor, I want to say it was, and it was like this giant, it wasn't a cold spot, but it was like a portal, but it was an electronic, it was all like energy, and static electricity. I wish I would have had my Eddie when we were there, but I didn't. But anyway, her hair, individual strands of hair, started to stand up on top of her head, and I got some really cool pictures of that, and it was like they were just screwing around with her, going above her head like this and just raising her hair up. So if you ever get the opportunity to get out there, that's really something. The picture that I was talking about was taken about a month ago, and it was taken down in the concert hall. There's a concert hall building, and there's a basement underneath it, and some people that I know that used to be investigators, resident investigators out there, basically Connor Randall and Carl Pfeiffer, that worked on Hellier, were there, and they used to do a lot of stuff in that basement. And there's a railing, and there's a railing that comes down, and there's a picture of this guy's head, and it looks like Old Man Stanley. And you can see the whole top of his head like this, and he's looking down into the basement from the staircase. And she caught that. Her name is Mary Pirkle, Pirkle, and she's like an aspiring everything. Beautiful girl. She's got a lot on the table. She's got a lot to present. Got a lot of things going on for her, and she's involved with the Stanley 2 this year. So it looks like they're coming back around as far as going ahead and offering tours again, and I don't know if they're at investigations yet, but it was a great part of the place, and it kept the spirits going and kept them happy. So let's see what else. There's a couple places that we were also looking at the Elgin Hospital in Elgin, Michigan, as a possible investigation site, and they offer tours and they offer private investigations over there, and that's on the east side of Michigan, halfway up north of South Haven area. Something to look into in case you were really thinking of possibly going ahead and getting involved with some of the stuff over there. If you have any interest in going to Indiana, there's quite a few places down there that are really interesting. I know that I've been to quite a few of them, and it's really been exciting. All the way from Indianapolis, South Indianapolis, was a place called Hannah House that was like a giant mansion that was owned by, I want to say it's John Hannah. It could be Andrew. But anyway, his house is haunted. And we did probably 4 investigations there. The last one we did there, it was live. Not live. Well, Dale did some live. I did some live, but it was a private one. How you doing, Ron? And it was really interesting. I know I really loved the place because I've been there about 3 years in a row with Chuck Williams and Dale, and they had a conference down there. And hey, Debbie. And it was really, really interesting from the viewpoint of, it gave you a cross-section of the groups from all the way down in southern Indiana to northern Indiana, and to meet all these neat people who all had connections for various locations. It was like, that's your gold mine right there. That's your golden nugget. So, you know, it's something that if you ever get the opportunity to do a Paracon, that's what it's all about, because you learn an awful lot in 2 or 3 days from people that have been doing this for quite some time. That area of Indiana, from Indianapolis coming north and going a little west, all offers a lot of different locations like Thornhaven Manor and the Rhodes Hotel in Atlanta, Indiana. Thornhaven Manor, when we were in there, it was still in a transition point of getting cleaned up and getting fixed up. And now when I've seen some film of a couple groups that I know that have been in there, it's cleaned up and it's still very, very active. So if you get the opportunity, and it's out in the middle of farmlands, basically, and Thornhaven Manor was built because the gentleman that built it had become friends with Abraham Lincoln, and at that particular time, Abraham Lincoln was seeking votes for becoming president of the United States as a state senator, and wanted to win these people over in Indiana. And his idea was that he was giving them tracts of land for their support, like 500 acres apiece, and underneath the promise that these people would become part of the Underground Railroad. So most of the locations that are there that are leading to the north from southern Indiana were all involved in the Underground Railroad. And that's where the black people, when they were trying to make it north without being recaptured and taken back down into the south, you know, for slavery again, it was their one and only chance. So that's why he had set it up, and that's what was really interesting about it. A lot of these other places, Tony says, what's the most haunted place you've investigated? I think all in all, I have a toss-up between Gettysburg and Old South Pittsburgh Hospital in Old South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. At that particular place, that's where I caught my apparition of this nurse and her cat. And I must have shot 140 pictures the whole entire weekend we were there, or time we were there. We were there in the middle of the week in March. The building was 50 degrees. We slept there. We had space heaters in the rooms to try to stay warm at night. I slept by myself. Anyway, I always had the feeling that, somebody was around me every time I moved and that. And at night, we had gone ahead and done quite a bit, and the picture of the nurse was a nurse that became a resident. What? You have the hose on? You can turn it off, please. No, I'm not turning it off, but I can hear the well pump running. Okay, I'll get it later. I'm live, Margie. Sorry about that. Anyway, what was my train of thought? She had a room on the third floor on the end of the hall. She lived her last days up there, and when she passed, it was her and the cat. And the cat still was there, and I guess when the cat passed, the cat stayed with her there. So it was a very interesting location. There was a lot of people that said there were a lot of demonic things going on there. I had no indication of that. I had seen pictures that definitely showed things that were quite scary looking, horns and very tall, very big. Danny Bott says that is a great picture, a classic. I wish I could show it, but this is my cell phone right now because I can't get the computer to do what I wanted it to do, so I'm sort of stuck, Danny. But it is a great picture. There's some other pictures that have been captured, and I've really enjoyed doing that. But what I was getting at was, when I first started, I took around about 140 pictures. And out of all those pictures, when I reviewed all my evidence and went through all those pictures, it was the very last picture. So, who knows? That's one of those little things where, you're always guessing about why was that the case. I thought I took more pictures, and I most certainly thought that wasn't the last one I took. So, I don't know how that... That's what we were just talking about, Sharon. For Tony, most haunted place, Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, Gettysburg, a couple ones to follow would be the last one we were at, Brushy Mountain Penitentiary. That had a very heavy feeling to it. No matter where we were at, it was constantly like that. And I apologize for that, but so that's where that part is. Anybody got the time? I can't even see what time it is. 8:36. Okay. So Brushy Mountain, St. Albans, the Shawnee Amusement Park, which is in Virginia, were all locations that we did the year before. There's Nida. She's here. Those are good locations. Some of the rules of etiquette I think, that go on as far as the paranormal is concerned. If you cross paths with another group on an investigation or anything like that, give them way, let them get on, take a break, and then follow back where you were going originally. You know, we're all in this together, and we all have to stay that way. Some of those things that were brought up pertaining to the unity thing, once again, you know, are things a lot of people in this field should pay closer attention to. But, you know, I do it because I love it. So I have a lot of other things to contend with at the same time, but I know the things that I want to do, and I know the people that I'm with I can trust, and I know they have my back. And that pertains to shadow hunters, it pertains to GRS, it pertains to all these people that I've met down the road. I'd go anywhere with any of them. I don't care if it's Hell House or you name it. I would be fine with those people. And that's important. And you have to go in there with a positive attitude where you're going in there to see if you can help them. Because there's always something that's going on where there's a spirit that's, having issues, For some reason they don't want to try to cross. They're afraid of what's pending in front of them. So they have a tendency to want to hold on to it. So we don't do that. We don't show the people the other side. There's plenty of people that are qualified to do that. I like to deal more of, for instance, we went to Pollock Hospital in Peoria, and we met up with an old friend of ours, and Sylvia Schultz, who's with another group now, and she is with, right now, today, she is with Dale at Gettysburg. And that's the way I feel about it, because if you got extra help and you have knowledgeable people, that's great. The basis behind the medium end of it, and something that I've been working on and thinking about for the last probably year and a half, not really for myself, but to know, because of when, you'd go into a particular location, if you're sensitive and in any way, you can pick up the rooms that you'd like to investigate over other rooms. Like pick me a winner. So you would do something like that. And I find it interesting because in our group we have two mediums. We have Sharon and we have Scotty. And not only do they go in and they're our eyes, but they also come up with facts and information that normally you wouldn't be able to do because they have the spirits talking to them. So that helps tremendously. It's kudos to them 100%. It makes what we do a little easier because then we can concentrate on what they've been given, so our questions are more pertinent to receiving good answers. So we did an EVP session, and that's just with a voice recorder, and you ask the questions. Or if you were looking for motion in a room and you have your, almost like your indicators out there, you have your REM pods that pick up vibrations, and if they come close and they touch the antenna, the lights light up, and that's the only real way that thing will go off, is they've got to touch it. So right off the bat, you know somebody's there. Eddie Plus's the Nick has that bear. I can't think of it. The Pooh Bear or Boo Bear or whatever he is. That Pooh Bear. That, you know, kids come up and they go to grab it, and then, you know, the alert goes off, so that it's good for little kids. And there's all sorts of little toys that you can pick up from like PetSmart or any animal store, pet store, where you can go ahead and they have those little cat toys that light up, and they have little LED lights in them, and you can throw them on the floor and tell them to play with the toys. And we just had that at Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, and there were two of them on the floor, and they were going back and forth. And that was up in the child's ward. All the other things that, you know, seem to be going on with everybody right now is just trying to, I would say the best thing to do is make sure you got all your gear together. I mean, we're very uncommon. I think we have shadow hunters. We already had 1, 2, we had our investigation at Terminus, and back March, I think it was, something like that. And then we had Pollock Hospital, and we had a couple small ones in between at some of the historical society places. And so you're constantly reviewing evidence and looking at film and looking at still pictures on your computer of what you've been taking, and it's really interesting. I mean, there's Nicholas has afforded a lot of people the opportunity to go places like the Lodge in Antioch and things like that, where they're able to go ahead and participate and learn a little bit about some of the equipment. And if you went to, another reason why you should go to like the Ghost Research page, not the page, the web page. If you go there, he has, you know, under all the titles on the top, he has all the equipment that we have to investigate with. He's got like 4 huge boxes of all these various types of equipment. And when he was doing his shows for when we were in the pandemic, he was doing a show almost every afternoon, all week long. Hey, Caitlin. He was showing, he did one whole hour and plus on equipment and what it does and all this. And it's something that down the road we can go ahead and cross over and get into some of the new stuff that's available and some of the new items. And one of them, Sharon picked up for Shadow Hunters for herself. She picked up the Spirit Box recorder that's available through Ghost Stop, and it records everything right on it. So you can go ahead and you can do EVPs, you can run your Spirit Box, you can get the responses, you can ask the questions, and everything's recorded, which makes it a lot simpler than going ahead and having a voice recorder there and set that up and, you know, all your different pieces of equipment. Another thing that comes into play that a lot of people don't really look at is transportation on long trips with things like batteries. We had an instance with GRS where we were in a car and we're on our way back from West Virginia, and it was me and Dale Kazmarek in the back seat, and we had this big tote that belonged to Chuck Williams, and he had all these 12-volt batteries in there with contacts and wires, and one of them started to short out and it was going on fire. So it was like we were on a freeway, so it was like get off on the side of the road and we have to get this thing out of the car before it explodes, because it's highly volatile. So we went ahead and got out and found out the contacts were all melted and everything. One had shorted out on another one, and so we were okay. But it could have been a bad scene. So make sure when you're packing all your gear that you try to keep those things separate, and just use your head on putting your gear away. Take care of it, because it's always good for another day. Some of the other paranormal things that are going on online, you have a lot of various other groups too. I belong to two different ones. One is the Single Fortean Society, which crosses everything paranormal and all the way into the cryptics and the lake creatures and Mothman and things like that. And then the the Haunted Museum of the Paranormal and the Occult, Singular was started by Tobias Wayland and his wife Wendy. I hope I get that right. I'm going to get shot. But anyway, then you've got the Haunted Museum of the Paranormal and the Occult that 4 or 5 years ago was at one of the Chicago Paracons, and I spent quite a bit of time over there because they were really interesting, and they had a lot of haunted items with them that were dolls and things like that. And they have a wooden African, sort of like some spirit guide type thing that is their little baby, and they wrap them in a blanket and talk to them. And they actually do EVP sessions with all the things they have in their collection, and they know their names and they know what's going on and why they're haunted, etc. We're going to try, Shadow Hunters is going to try in September. We're going to work at going ahead and getting Edinburgh Manor in Iowa. It's a great location. It was another one of those poor farms that took in all the farmers during the Depression and all the different diseases that were going out, and tuberculosis and that. Part of it was like almost a mini hospital for that, and a lot of people that were just plain homeless. So I was there last year, and we plan on going again. We're going to try to get Shadow Hunters out there and have a fun time there, because there's a lot of things that go on there too. Do we have any more questions, or anybody that would like to ask something? Let's see. Do you have any ideas of what we should do, like next week? I'm going to try to have Jason Snyder from Crawford County Ghost Hunters on next week, which is the 14th. And that should work. If he doesn't come back and get all eaten up by fleas, or ticks, at the Triangular Field at Gettysburg tonight. He's got a lot of interesting things. The man's on the go 24/7. Tries to run the show. He has a full team. He has people work on all the evidence, and he has everything delegated out really fine. So, have I ever been to the stage stop? Yes, I have, and I've been upstairs. Nida. It's all plexiglassed off up there now. And way back in the day, I was up there. I had a friend that knew the bartender, and he used to let us go upstairs. And that's where the bunk rooms were for the people that would pick up the stagecoach from there. So if they had an overnight stay, they'd be able to go up there and sleep. And that was extremely busy and quite heavy. It's a pretty good place. Yeah, I would say so. I would like to see it continue to be. I don't know what's happening. What happened when I was there, it was just the feelings. I had no equipment. Even back in the day, I would just go up there and look around and sort of feel things out. I always wanted to have equipment and go up there. I heard that the owner from the Volo Antique Museum has passed, and I don't know who's going to take over, and I don't know how the restrictions are going to be as far as they're accepting the paranormal and not. His wife is still alive, so, and she was the one that pretty much after that one group was in there about maybe 15 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that. They stirred everything up, and she didn't want anything to do with anybody else after that, so, which was a shame, because that's got a Civil War soldier there, and behind the museum, that one little back road that comes in before, if you turn off of Route 12, over there by the quarry there, gravel place, and you take that back road, you can go right by that cemetery, and it's got, I think back in the day in the Civil War, the way I read it in the book that I have on the soldiers, was there was only 6 or 8 that went between Volo, which was all farms. There was like four or five farms. Lake Villa wasn't really established yet. And then you had Waukegan, and Waukegan was like the draft center, or that's where it took all the volunteers for the Civil War up there. I don't know anything about the Kemper Center. I've heard stuff from one or two of the other paranormal groups about it, but I've never been there. Closest we were there was I was at the Genesee Theater, and we had quite a lot of things go on in there when we investigated. That was GRS, and that was when Aaron Shriver from SIC, which is out of Winthrop Harbor, he worked there, and we did a great investigation there that night that we were there. We had a lot of stuff. Down in the boiler room or the air conditioning room, because I guess what had gone on there was the fact that that theater is so old. It was one of the first buildings in the United States that had air conditioning, and the air conditioning unit was about the size of a fleet garage, and it had a giant wheel with a giant what am I trying to say? Your pulley or whatever you want to say. I'm lost on that, but anyway, real interesting building. A lot of things go on there. I think there's a lot of spirits in there. That was the last place that James Brown performed live. And there's placards on the walls that go down towards the dressing rooms that all have the pictures and the autographs of everybody that performed there all over the walls. Priceless place. I hope I answered some questions. I know I didn't answer them all, and I was a little bit jumping back and forth, I'm sure. But it keeps me busy that way, and hopefully I still retained a lot. For those that wanted to know, I had a stone 2 weeks ago, and or 3 weeks ago, and then I had to wait a week, and then I had an appointment for surgery, and 2 days before I went on vacation, I went in to have the stone blown up with a machine, and they couldn't do it, and they ended up going ahead and having to go in to get it, which is a lot of fun. So don't do it. And anyway, I'm okay, I'm recovered, and Sharon just said, yeah, Mr. Stone. It's 4 millimeters, real little. But I know it's almost time. I want to thank everybody for being here. I know sometimes I ramble too much. I love you all, and I want to make sure that you're all safe. And prayers for everybody, and keep on hanging in there, and we're going to get through this together, and everybody's going to be hunting ghosts. And I'll see you next week, same time, same channel, or same bad channel. Okay, you guys take it easy. Good night.